Suresh Prabhu.
Thank you, sir. So let me start my speech with some complimentary remarks to the Finance Minister for bringing about some new changes, welcome changes in the budget. And I am speaking immediately after Nirmal Kanti Chatterjee. So I think probably I am saying something which is said is not good. And I feel I must congratulate the Finance Minister for reducing. No, I'm just yet to come to that stage. You are there to support. Why do you need our support? You are there in good number to support. Sir, first, the reduction of tax rates for both the sectors, corporate as well as individuals, is really welcome. This is because it is always better to prevent than to offer a cure. We always, as Mr. Chatterjee was saying, if you want to not have a voluntary disclosure scheme in future, it is better to provide for it now by reducing rates of tax and bringing them at a level which really meets with some sanitary thinking. Sir, there was a time when 97.75% was the highest individual tax that people had to pay. From there we have come down to now 30%. And I really congratulate the Finance Minister for being so bold and innovative in offering such a tax rate for the individuals as well as both for the corporates. Of course, the corporate rates are different, but I really congratulate him for reducing this rate. Sir, the second point on which again I wish to compliment him is for removing tax on dividends. While introducing that, he said that he wants to end the controversy. But I don't think the controversy has really ended. Probably Mr. Chatterjee was trying to revive the controversy whether the dividend tax is double tax or not. But I think it is very clear in the minds of those who receive the dividend that it was a double tax, and having reduced it, having removed it, I really congratulate the Finance Minister. There are various issues on which one will have to really find faults with the budget, but I am aware of the fact that the Finance Minister was acting in a very unenviable situation in which he had a problem of resources. One problem of resources was a lack of financial resources which he had to find somewhere. But on the other hand, he had a resources in terms of many parties offering him advice and many parties offering him political resource in terms of saying what should be done and what should not be done. So maybe one is the lack of resource which has prevented him from doing the things, and one is the abundant resources which are available to him in terms of advice. I think probably he had to do certain things which he otherwise wouldn't have done in a normal situation. Sir, I will fail in my duty if I don't point out one fundamental weakness that I feel is there in the economy. We often make reference to it. In fact, everybody who talks about Indian economy makes reference to it. But I really don't know why we are not attempting to at least take a first step to bring about a solution to this. Sir, our debt servicing this year is now 1,42,632 crores. And our total revenue receipts are 1,53,143 crores. So probably here in 98-99 or definitely in the next year after that, our debt servicing obligation will be more than the revenue receipts, as is the trend now. So I think, sir, we are really entering into a very, very serious situation, and I don't know how one could salvage that situation.
Sir, I have already placed a paper on the table of the House about our external debt.
I'm not talking about external debt, I'm talking about total debt.
Just a moment. So when you talk about debt servicing,
yes.
When you talk about debt servicing, please read the paper about external debt. We are not into any kind of debt trap.
Yes. No, whether we are into debt trap or not, but if we really compare the figures of the last year, this year our 1,42,632 crores is a debt servicing obligation as opposed to the total revenue receipts projected at 1,43,143 crores. So this is a very serious situation. The gap is only 11,000 crores. So probably, if not next year, after the year after next, definitely we'll be having a serious problem is my apprehension. And I'm very glad that the Finance Minister has something other to feel about it. It's very nice. But sir, this is a very serious matter of concern. almost 42% of our total revenue receipts are now eaten away by interest of 68,000 crores. So, sir, only 58% of the income of the government is left for something else, and part of it is also going into non-planned expenditure like subsidies and other areas. But sir, what is important, if we are really going to continue with a situation like this, how much amount is going to be left for us for developmental work? And if that situation continues, are people going to pay taxes when they'll realize that nothing is going to be used for them in form of developmental expenditure? So serious situation might arise, and I think this is a point of serious concern for all of us to really ponder about.
सुरेश प्रभु जी, एक चीज़ आपके नोटिस में लानी है, आपकी पार्टी को इस शेड्यूल के मुताबिक सिर्फ 1 मिनट अलॉट हुआ।
So imagine the fact that this timing means, is it possible for any?
You have taken more than the double the time.
Granting this.
Still, I am allowing him.
It's an unreal thing.
As I did allow you.
So this is very unfortunate.
I am allowing him also.
As you allowed him, you will allow me also, I am sure about it.
Yes.
Sir, the other areas of concern is the point about infrastructure. Sir, the common minimum program has talked about $200 billion of investment that is needed into infrastructure. $200 billion of investment that is necessary to go into infrastructure at today's prices of today's requirement and to be implemented in next few years' time. So the committee which you appointed for commercialization of infrastructure has also anticipated the same amount in another 5 years' time. Sir, you are also talking about the CMP talking about putting 6% of GDP in infrastructure in next 5 years. So as opposed to that, how much amount we are really invested this year into infrastructure is something which is really a cause of concern for all of us. And this is very important, sir, because the finance minister is projecting very high revenues on the premise that there is going to be a 7% growth of economy. To bring about a 7% growth of economy, if the infrastructure investment this year and also the years to follow are not going to keep pace with the envisaged requirement of $200 billion as mentioned in the CMP, I really don't know how we are going to really get into a situation which is not going to be alarming. Sir, the other issue of concern is the cost of governance. Every year, our cost of administration is going up, and after adoption of this new report of pay commission, it is going to go up further. And what steps we are really going to initiate to reduce this cost of governance, there is no talk about it. There was only a talk about expenditure commission in the last budget, but I think this year, again, we are really not thought about it at all. So the other issue is about employment, and the new jobs created during the year, there is no specific mention, and this is also an area of concern in a country like India, where our thrust should be more on employment than on any other thing. So instead of giving figures of the growth in GDP, which is necessary, we should also start giving figures in every annual budget about new jobs created during the year, which is very important for us to assess the performance of the economy in that year. Sir, this year, we must make an attempt to create more jobs in manufacturing sector or services sector, which are more stable jobs. In US also, they are talking about MAC jobs, and they are saying we don't want MAC jobs, but we want manufactured jobs. So some stable jobs to be created in the economy on ongoing basis is very important. And this is more important because we are now going in for a highly automated types of operations in the economy. So more jobs created, maybe there will be loss of jobs than new jobs created. So I think such type of figures need to be given. Sir, another assurance or another milestone that the CMP wants to achieve is the abolition of poverty by year 2005. 2,466 crores have been provided this year into this budget, and I think the figures of people going below poverty line during the year, as even suggested by CMI, are really alarming, and I think there has not been much improvement into this. So other point of concern also is the deficit in the oil pool account, but I won't blame the finance minister for it, because even earlier times, when he took over as this new government came in, there was already a deficit in oil pool account, which was not recouped for last so many years. So probably the supporting party wants that it should not be recouped immediately. Some time should lapse between the time that the deficit is created in the oil pool account and the time it is recouped. So I think they are waiting for some more time on the advice of the parties which are supporting them. Sir, another area of concern is the decline on capital expenditure, and I think this is the direct cause for which the core sectors of our industry are really suffering. So the cement and steel are really going down, and the reason is the government's capital expenditure is on decline continuously for last few years. So the last budget, I am just reading few points so that I can finish it fast. So the last budget also mentioned that there is going to be foreign direct investment, FDI of $10 billion is what targeted. So this year, I think we are just about little over $1 billion, and I think $2 billion.
Over $2 billion.
Over $2 billion of sanction, but what actually has come into?
I'm talking about actual.
Okay, $2 billion. So it is 20% of what we're really targeting, and I think this year at least we should be able to get it.
I've said it again, $10 billion cannot be reached in 1 year. It's like trying to go from step one to the top step of the flight of stairs. You have to take it one step at a time or two steps at a time. Now, we have done, in terms of foreign exchange inflows into the country, much better than last year. In fact, today, the problem is really how to sterilize the foreign exchange inflows.
I'm talking about FDI.
By the time March 31 is over, we will reach the highest foreign exchange reserves ever in this country. So the real issue is, what you write, how do you get FDI? Yes. FDI this year is more than last year. If you add GDR, it's much more than last year. It's running at 50% higher than last year.
I agree with you. I was just talking about FDI alone.
I'm talking about FDI. FDI plus GDR. GDR is also FDI.
Yes. But even then it is, all told, it's not more than $2 billion.
Sir, FDI is over $2 billion. FII is over $2 billion.
That is portfolio investment.
GDR is about $1 billion. Total foreign exchange inflows, I'm talking from memory, is about $7 billion this year. But last year we ran down foreign exchange by $3 billion. This year, by March 31, we would have built up foreign exchange by $4 billion.
So this $10 billion is over a period of time we are going to attain. So how much time it will take? Because $200 billion is the investment necessary in infrastructure alone. So it's going to take long time.
It's a good debate, sir. I wish we could enter. $200 billion is not going to be foreign money.
But Indian money...
The bulk of that capital will be raised within India. Foreign capital is only at the margin. It is about 4% of our requirements. So when you talk about $200 billion, it's only to give an idea, not merely in crore terms, but also in billion-dollar terms, the size of the investment. Please read Rakesh Mohan's report. Nobody is saying $200 billion will come from outside the country. The bulk of it will be raised in India. The Indian capital market will provide it. Indian savings will provide it. But at the margin, we require foreign capital because it brings technology.
Yeah, okay. Even I was reading from the Mr. Mohan's report, commercialization of infrastructure. Anyway, so sir, other point is about education and health. So the CMP said that 6% of the GDP is going to be spent on education. Yes. As opposed to that, so the provision this year on education is 4,158 crores and on healthcare is 755 crores. So probably the CMP was talking about minimum amount that could be provided. It should be not more than 6%, but less than 6%. I think I have not...
Again, my learning is wrong. 6% of GDP is what this country should spend on education. You must add state government's expenditure on education, central government's expenditure on education. You must aim at a target of spending 6% of GDP on education. State governments are also spending on education.
Sir, in animal farm, first manifesto is supplemented by various supplementaries. So I think the CMP also has some supplementary.
You must read it carefully.
Yes, yes.
You must read it carefully.
Okay. Sir, I know. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I'm willing to answer. You've got a genuine doubt.
Sir, the other issue about widening of tax net. There are about 13 million assessees, and we should definitely increase the number of assessees from 13 million to definitely up to 400 million. Because we are always saying that India has a middle class of 400 million as comparable to probably Europe, and that's why the foreigners should invest into the country. If we really have that type of a critical mass who could be assessees, then probably this is a good measure to tax them or to bring them under the tax net by introducing this minimum. One of the 4 conditions, if he meets, he has to pay taxes. Two of the four. Sir, my question is...
to wind up.
Sir, this is unfair.
I'm not including the time of the finance minister's intervention. So you have already taken more than 10 minutes.
Sir, everybody has taken 40, 45 minutes, 1 hour, sir. I should at least... No, I'm just not... Sir, so the question I would like to know from the query to the finance minister is, suppose if a person, an agriculturist, having an agriculture income, satisfies one of the 4 of the 2 conditions, will he be required to file a tax return because his otherwise income is not taxable? So the logical step to do it is whoever is having one of the two conditions is fulfilling, and even his income is from agriculture, he should be taxed. But that is not a provision that has been, yes, but it is not really, it is not provided into the budget, and I think this is a time that we should really go for it. So other sector that has not met with Prime Minister's attention is the cooperatives. So the cooperatives which contribute significantly to the welfare of the economy also, there is a provision in the Income Tax Act 80P which needs to be amended. Otherwise there are some processing societies whose profits are getting taxed, even though it is a concept of mutuality between a member and a cooperative society. Despite that, it is getting taxed, and also the reserves created by the institutions, if they are invested and the tax arising out of that is also getting taxed. So probably the finance minister would certainly look into it. So the last 5-year plan never had a chapter on cooperation, and probably this approach to 5-year plan is not even talking about it, but probably will have an exclusive chapter on cooperation as was there right from the first 5-year plan in this sector also. Sir, the 73rd and the 74th amendment, which has now given a different type of constitutional rights to local self-governments, I think the same type of rights need to be given to the cooperatives if at all we want them to function in the proper manner. So I am very happy that the finance minister has taken a very bold step of providing autonomy to RBI in one form or the other. Sir, the real function of the RBI should be to control the prices, control the inflation, and also give proper control the price of the rupee, which should be the value of the rupee. This should be the responsibility of the central bank. Sir, this year the central government has taken 6,000 crore of profit of the RBI into the credit of your consolidated fund. Also, 16,000 crores of monetized deficit has also been attributed to Reserve Bank of India. As per the document here, I'll show you the 16,000 crores. So, sir, I would like to know that now the central government is going to borrow from RBI not through the T-bills, but only through ways and means advances. When state governments are getting such ways and means advances, if there is a default, RBI does not allow them to draw 1 rupee more. Is the same rule going to apply to the central government? When a bank is acting as the banker to the government is something which we would like to know. Then only we will really know whether the autonomy to Reserve Bank of India is a reality or not. Sir, the common minimum program also talked about Sikh companies, and there was a proposal, there was a statement that the SICA will be totally revamped so that the BIFR also could work in a proper manner, and a small sector also would be brought under the purview of the Sikh companies. Sir, there is no such provision. In fact, that is something which needs to be done immediately, so that probably all the money that is blocked with the Sikh companies could really come into the productive sources. Even the banks would have a reduced NPS. Sir, you are making me to hurry, sir. So agriculture, there is a provision in this year. Last year, the planned outlay on agriculture and irrigation was 1,242 crores, which actuals went to 815 crores. Whereas in 97-98, the provision is 323 crores, which is a substantial loss, a substantial reduction, and I think we'll really try to do something about it. So the girls' education program has been started, but the midday meal program of the Prime Minister is discontinued. So
no,
probably
it's there. Okay. What do you mean discontinued?
So I think this is
not discontinued.
okay.
Not discontinued.
And sir, the other point which is really important is how are we going to raise our savings in the Indian economy. Sir, the individuals and the non-government sector which is saving the most, and how are we going to really bring about that savings increase in that? Because as the finance minister said, the bulk of $200 billion has to come from the savings. So what are the incentives to the household savers who are really biggest contributor to the savings and who really replace the possibility of FDI not coming into the country? How are they going to benefit? And if we are going to offer so much of incentive to FDI than others, what incentives we can offer to the household savings is something which we would like to know. Sir, my suggestion, I'll just make quick suggestion to the finance minister for his consideration. So one, we need to have a debt redemption fund. Probably the proceeds of the PSU should directly be credited to that. Also, sir, we must have some sort of a swap of equity of the PSUs with some sort of a debt. And also, sir, another point about telecom fees. Sir, telecom fees is a one-time gain for the government. We are giving away monopolies of the state into certain sectors, and in lieu of that, we are receiving certain compensations from the operators. 3,700 crores credit you have taken this year for license fees from the telecom. This money is, really speaking, even from a normal accounting standard, is something like a windfall gain and should not be treated as a revenue receipt in the hands of the government. And there is a need to use this money as since it's a one-time receipt, you should use it for something more than just using it to meet the revenue expenditure of that department. And I think there is a need to have a policy on how we are going to use the money which we receive one time on account of such receipts. Sir, we need to have a backward area approach in a properly articulated. We have already said that 100 districts, most backward districts of the country as per the CMP, are going to be identified, and we are going to target some money towards it. So all these programs of various types, some areas never benefit. There is the area of Konkan in Maharashtra, which is not receiving the proper attention of the government because we are not really identifying the areas, articulating them, and trying to direct your investment into that. So I think there is a need to have some sort of a proper planning in terms of targeting a lot of these infrastructure investment into areas which are more backward than the others. And in fact, unless we really remove the backwardness of these areas, we should not target the investment into other areas. Sir, there is a need to provide special funds for Mumbai, and we are not really giving anything to it because people from all over the country are staying in Mumbai. So there is a need to have more Mumbai money coming for Mumbai's development.
Please conclude now.
Sir, there is a need that now we have dispensed with the licensing system, so that where the location of the industry should be is no longer decided by the government. So unless we provide for some fiscal benefit, whereby the industry will be directed to go or tempted to go to a particular place, they would really not go. So I earnestly request the finance minister to at least have his attention on this issue, that for backward areas, we need to have a different approach, a different fiscal policy, so that we can really get people going into that area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Sardar Surjit Singh Barnala.